You know what's, you mentioned SNL, and I was talking with some friends about this recently. We were like, man, Living Color, Mad TV, it was so much more fun. It was so much funnier than SNL. And you could tell they had black writers. And I'm sure SNL has black writers now, but we're
Uh-huh.
talking about the 90s. And we're like, why didn't these shows last longer when, in our opinion, maybe because maybe y'all are reaching out to us, to us as a demographic. We were like,
Right, right,
this
right.
was so much funnier than SNL, and SNL is still here, and Living Color is gone, and Mad TV is gone. And I just like, why? What? The
Man.
funny scale was obvious. If there would have been viral clips back then, y'all would have went
Uh-huh.
viral every single week.
Every single week. As a matter of fact, with both of them couldn't exist in the same place. You know what I mean? Because the density of what we did on the network shows couldn't really hold up to what's going on now, because the second something's out there, it's give me the next thing, give me the next thing, give me the next thing, give me the next thing. I mean, TikTok is like whap, 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 whap. So the speed of content right now, the speed of things is going so fast that the consumer doesn't have a time to even enjoy the flavor of something before it's gone. It's like, oh, look at that, look at that, look at this, look at that, and it's gone. You don't even have a chance to really enjoy it, to savor it. You know what I mean? So it is important that the even the servers, the Netflixes and that there be some kind of net where you can stop and enjoy the type of comedy that we enjoy. See,
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live is a different type of comedy, although it's good and beautiful. But you can't say that, the inflection of hip hop, the inflection of the Latino experience, the inflection of the Black experience in what it really is, not regurgitated, not imitated, but the genuine, the real thing. There's a spot for it.
Yeah. No, definitely. We need it. We
If
need
any of that made sense, Lord.
it. No, we need it. I just, we were just wondering, like, yo, it was funny. But let me ask
Yeah,
you.
and it's to come. And it's to
Yeah.
come. It's a business. So things go here and there for the reasons that they do, because they're controlled by the tide of the business itself. That was an instant, SNL is an institution.
Yeah, it is.
It's something that is there,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you this one. Fortunately, the relationships that white producers have, with networks, are a lot more, let's say, locked down than the ones for Black producers. The relationships,
I hear
they're
you.
more fortified.
Oh, so Keenan Ivory Wayans probably wasn't able to, for whatever complicated reason, have the same kind of relationship with the network that Lauren
Right.
Michaels might have.
The same,
Yeah,
the same adherence. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because the deal for In Living Color was between Fox and In Living Color. The deal between Lauren Michaels is between Lauren Michaels and NBC. But it looks like that relationship has been able to flourish over the years and continue. Do you see what I mean?
I do. I
This
do.
could be the younger generation of In Living Color still on Fox.
Right,
Fox
right.
decides, hey, we're going to go from there to Beverly Hills 201, 102, or whatever. And if you look at Fox's programming now, you see who they committed to, and it
And
wasn't Black people.
mm, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Am I
All right, let
wrong?
me ask you this.
Am I wrong? You
Say it
see what
again.
I'm saying? Like,
No,
hey,
no, it's but you know what? That even transcends Hollywood, and you see that in corporate America. You see that why certain people move ahead and certain folks don't. So I think a lot of folks can relate to that. All right. So one of the things that's so fascinating you talk about in the book, and I didn't get to mention this to you before. You talk about how for folks who don't know, sadly, you were abandoned by your mother in a trash can, and
I
your
was.
mother. Well, it's hard to say. I don't want to but
No, no, it's okay though. I'm glad it happened then.
Yeah, yeah, and you were raised by a white family. You know, you had a white family who adopted you. But one of the things
That's
that you
the really
mentioned,
sad part. No, I'm just kidding.
one of the things that you mentioned, and I've heard this from other Black folks I know who were raised in white households, that you really didn't understand this race thing until you began experiencing racism. Like you were like, why are they calling me Black? You know, I'm brown. Like you didn't really understand this
At
concept of
all.
race until
At all.
it came at you. My experience, although I have a white mother and black father,
Uh-huh.
my father always spoke to me about race. My grandfather always
Right.
spoke to me about race.
So you
So I
had
wanted
it.
to ask,
You
yeah,
had a
yeah, yeah,
reference.
exactly. So I wanted to ask you, do you think for the white parents out there who have Black children, whether it's adoption or an interracial relationship, do
Right.
you think it's important that discuss race with them early so they don't have a culture shock later later in life or when they finally get in school? Like, do you think it would have been helpful for you, or maybe they weren't able to do it, I don't know, to really break down race so you're not like, why am I being called the N-word, you know, when it happens?
Right. Right. Well, I can only go from my experience and what I would, the prescription I would write for that one
Mm-hmm.
is to wait until they ask, because that gives them more time to just be a kid. See, when you become all of a sudden this Black kid, you see, then you go, okay, well, how does this connect? If you're just able to just be a child, and connect to the world the way a child does, which is from a standpoint of all wonder, all beauty, all questions, right? And you're seeing the best side of everything. When you start to get those questions coming from the child, then you're there. You see, because the thing about it was, I think what was good for me was that I was able to be just a child until that came up. And it'll naturally come up for every child, but it doesn't come up for white children as much as it comes up for us, because it is what splits us off.
That's the privilege of it. They don't got to
Yeah,
think.
that line, that what the insidious part of that line is that there's a division there for us, not them.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's all of a sudden I got to be conscious of it, but really not them.
Yeah.
They can be conscious of us as a choice. You know what I mean? But we can't zip this off. You see? Okay, so if you're Jewish, or you're Italian, or you're Polish, or you're from Czechoslovakia, or you're Russian, you know what I mean? Then you can stand there with a bunch of what they call white people and be white. We can't. So wouldn't that affect the child in some kind of way? So it would be about reinforcing and nurturing the child's inner spirit and the child's inner image of what they're about, to attack it at that point. To say, no, hey, you're Black, but that person is Jewish, and that person's this, and that person's that, and that person's that. Everyone is different. It's your color. It's your color that has been put as a negative, and then reinforce them from that standpoint. That's how I would do it. It was my mother that said, okay, when she had that conversation with me, she said, well, that's how people our color look at people your color. And I was like, well, what color is that? There was some math that we were able to do, some very basic color math. Well, what is that? And she said, well, they're Black, and I said, no, they're not. They're brown. She said, no, but that's what we call them. And then when the white people called me nigga and chased me and were trying to hurt me, said that, well, people, that's when people our color call people your color when they don't like them. And I said, well, what color are you? And they said, white. And I said, no, you're like peach. And she said, I know, but that's what you call us. You see? So, there's only more, there's only more to meet the eye when it comes to us, because when it comes to meeting the eye, we're the ones that are different.
Yeah. Yeah.
or seen as different.
Yeah. I
And
encourage.
that's not on the world scope. On the world
Right.
scope, we're not seen as different. We're just seen as part of the world.
Right.
In
'Cause we
this
are the
place that
majority.
we are, yeah,
The global majority.
in this United States,
Yeah.
you know, and it's for all it's for specific reasons.
Oh
The
yeah.
Polish, the Irish, the Polish, the Irish, the Italian, you know, the Russian, the German, they all came in here voluntarily.
Yeah.
You know, we all came here as a workforce, and the
Yeah.
workforce was one color.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you really break that down in the book. It's an interesting read. All right, I got to ask you this because we talked about it briefly last time, and I wanted to talk about it some more because I reread it. You said in the book, it's in the early part of the book. Say it again. I'm
Oh, I'm
sorry.
loving it because you know I'm not getting a lot of feedback from my peers, people that are in the business. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I'm a reader and I'm a fan of your work. And I said
Thank
it
you.
before. I love Bamboozled. Anyway, all right. So you said in the book, you said that you had this observation that white women aren't racist, and you had told me before
Ah,
that you innately feel like white women aren't racist. And I think about the majority of white women who voted for Trump. I think about the Karens, as we call them, harassing black children. I often think that with white women, it's kind of like with any group, they might experience sexism from white men. And so they need someone else to shit on, if you will.
ah,
And you even see that, with Susan B. Anthony, the amazing voting rights activist. She
right,
said,
right,
do not give these Sambos the right to vote
right,
before
right,
your wives and your
right.
daughters. I just wanted
Mhm.
to ask you, um, I think they can be just as racist as white men. I just wanted to know why you
Right,
felt the
where that was
what
coming
we
from.
see
Yeah,
right now
yeah,
in
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
Trump
yeah.
era, really.
No, and I agree with you on that. I
Mm-hmm.
agree because racism is racism, and it comes from it takes man and woman. It takes a white man and a white woman to make a white child. I mean, we're talking about a whole, another race. Um, it was in the comedy context, and so you know you know if you decontextualize it, that if you don't see it in a comedy context, then it'll be sort of a broad statement. But the reason why I say that in my comedy is to bring into focus, and this may be a little bit, deeper, whatever, what to bring in the focus on non-racist white people. I just use that as a door. I use that as a door. I use the white woman as a door. And I can use it, and I use it as a door because it is true that when they make an announcement when they make an announcement in a public place, they will speak up for everybody and it won't be looked at as a race thing. You know what I mean? And that's from my point of view. That's from my perception. And I'm not the only one that shares that, you know? So in the comedy way, it's a part of the bit that opens up that conversation. That's why I love the fact that the book now can take us deeper. You see what I mean? Now I know that my mother was not racist. I know that my math teacher, I'm gonna name all the white women in my life, is not racist. I know my wife is not racist. I know my wife's uh, mother isn't. You know, I know that. And it goes on. One of my business managers not. So how do you communicate and speak on behalf of non-racist whites? So what I used is caricature, and satire to at least bring attention to it through comedy, and also my real life experience with non-racist people. This one in specific had to do with white women. There are also non-racist white men. My grandfather, my brother, the director of all of my movies that I work with, writers, the construction. I mean, so who's bringing attention to that, and how has that ever been a focus of blacks? No. See, and you can't blame us because racism is such a monster. You know what I mean? But in the tradition of the African American spiritual arc, it's my responsibility to my great grandmother and father to bring forth the very spirit that kept them spiritually and mentally sane through that 400 years of deep oppression. The answer isn't, hey, white devil, we're gonna get you back. That's not the answer, because then we'd be doing what we would be reenacting and recreating the very evil that beset us. And I'll give you examples. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
World War I, World War II, the Spanish French War, the Spanish American War, the Civil War. Let's just go. Let's keep going, because I don't remember Africa being a part of these huge wars, at least not in this millennium. So even though it is just a joke, it ain't no joke. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more.
One of the things that I always say, I think the majority of white people are racist. I think the majority of men are sexist. I think the majority of straight folks are homophobic because we're programmed to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not taught nuances. We're not taught history. We're taught propaganda in school. Like, we are taught to be that way. It's profitable to be racist. It's profitable to be sexist. It's profitable to be anti-Semitic because we're not exposed. We're not taught, and people kind of get in their bubble. So I always tell people, when you hear the word racist, don't freak out, because this is how you were programmed, and it takes work to deprogram yourself. And we're not in it. You look in this era that we're in right now, people are literally being praised for their racism. They're being praised for their
it looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like that because there was a specific administration that focused on that for their own economic agenda. And it does look like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if at a time it was, I could say that, it's the majority. I could say that at a time, but it would be a time probably pre-World War II, because the world got to see how that plays out, and then through the different social renaissance that happened, the different social renaissance being, the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, the women's lib movement, these type, the educational movement in this country, the integration educational movement in this country, and
but then you got Jim Crow.
Yeah. But that's pre, World War II. I'm talking the effects of that was there, but that stuff started to change and move towards change after that world catastrophe. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't until Europe had to experience the devastation of how wholesale hate would affect their existence.
Got you. Well, let me ask you a couple lighter questions, because I know you have to go soon. I didn't.
No, I go hard. I go hard, baby. I go hard in the paint. I'm like Jordan. I'm equipped on each level. That's the good thing about the book is, I get to bring us, and I'm talking about Black folks, everybody. I get to bring everybody into a higher state of consciousness. And not that I'm the man or whatever. It has nothing to do with me at all personally. It has everything to do with the walk I took.
Yeah.
You read it.
Yeah.
Ain't it cool? It's a cool thing, right? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right, so a couple lighter things. I didn't see this in the book, and if it's in there, I missed it. But I read that you were the opening act for Luther Vandross.
Yes,
I love Luther, so you got to tell me what that was like because I love
man. First of all, I want to thank Sinbad. And God bless that boy, man. Everybody give him some prayers. That is my man. My
Yeah.
number one right there. Because Sinbad called me. I'm going through kind of a hard time. And he says, hey, man, you know, why don't you take my tour? You know, I said, what? Yeah, take my tour. I'm on tour with Anita Baker and Luther Vandross. You know, you can have that.
Iconic tour.
I was like, whoa, what? He said, yeah, you can have that. You know, go be yourself, man. And I traveled the country, man, with Luther Vandross and Anita Baker, and I became close friends with Luther. You know, and Luther taught me a lot, and his band taught me. The band is best friends to this day, both bands, and me and Luther were real tight. You know, and that was the most wonderful experience because I grew up with his music, and here I am with him.
Yeah.
You know, that was the start of something good. That was before In Living Color. You know, that really got me grooved. That got that train going.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most prolific songwriters and, you know, interesting and unique artists in the world of music ever is Luther. And I worked with him and can say he was a friend.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love Luther. In the book, you talk about Jennifer Lopez briefly, who was a dancer on In Living Color. And
Right.
when I interviewed with you, you told me this. You said that your only issue with her is that she hasn't spoken to you since. And I wanted to understand this. Are you saying that you have seen her in person? You've been face to face with her, and she acted like you didn't exist?
Yeah, but you know what though? I got kind of mad. You know what I mean? And I was like, when I got in the media, I was like, man, she a jerk and this, that, and the other thing. But you know, yes, she was to me personally. You know what I mean? But I'm sensitive.
How was she a jerk to you?
She just didn't really acknowledge my existence anymore. She doesn't.
Mm.
You know, it became so uncomfortable that I stopped even trying to say hi to her. And I think that was her goal. You know, and you know, people who are celebrities or people who aren't. I think one of the tools of them protecting themselves or doing whatever they need to do for themselves is to just, you know, not acknowledge people's existence. That's not something that I do. You know, personally, that's not something that I do under any circumstance if I can help it. You know what I mean? Because what purpose does that serve? You know, that same person could be walking by me when I'm flipped over my car and it's on fire and I can't get out and I need their help. You know, plus it's just not nice. But that's not judgment. That's just me. You see? And I probably wouldn't feel that way if we didn't have a great relationship. We're on In Living Color, which is like at least a hey, how you doing? You know, and we both had conversations and I don't want to leave out a dimension. That girl is so cool. So it's really me being sensitive. You know, I'm like, I wish you would talk to me. You know what I mean? You know, but and there's some things that you can't have everything you want. That doesn't not make her the, you know, the person that I remember. You know what I mean? Because she was cool.
Mm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's just me. You know, it's like, you know, I can't change the world and I can't change people, but I can change me.
Right. That's what you would.
I can. Yeah. It's like if let's just say if she was a block of ice, you know, and I'm me, right? You know, I'm not going to change it to a block of ice because she's a block of ice. I got to stay me. I'm like Sammy. I gotta be me. These cats gotta learn or Hollywood will burn. I've gotta be me. Hold on, my eye came out, baby.
you sound, I mean, we all know this, but wow, you sound just like him. Can you do the Candyman?
Yeah. Of course, by request. As long as Stephanie is watching. Okay, great. Because she got to have my audio together. I mean, she's going to, you know.
Yeah, careful. Go ahead. All right.
Who can take a rainbow, sprinkle it with dew, cover it with chocolate and a miracle or two. The Candy Man. Hold on, this part's important. She boing, 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 the candy man can. The candy man can, cause he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good. And I mean that.